What's good, YouTube? Nova here, bringing you guys my updated 2016. Well, I guess it's October, almost November, but anyway, Infernoid deck. So I decided to update Infernoids because I just kind of wanted to make them again. So I'm just gonna not waste any time. I'm gonna dive right in. I'm playing 2 copies of Infernoid Anuku. Uh, Anuku has to be played at 2 in this version because I'm playing uh, Void what is it? Void Imagination. So I figure you have to play 2 copies of this because if you draw this or something, or you lose one of them, you kind of want to have the second one for backup. So basically, if you don't know what this does, is this one is banish 3 Infernoids from your graveyard, special summon this card from your hand or graveyard, and he's a dark hole. And also when he's on the field, when a spell or trap card is activated, you contribute 1 monster to negate the activation and destroy it, or banish it, my mistake. So that's that effect. And then also going with the boss monsters, I'm playing 2 copies of Deviati. Deviati is basically the same thing as Anuk, but he's a heavy storm, and instead of tributing a monster to negate a spell and trap, he is tribute a monster to negate a monster effect. So that's it. So those are the 2 big boss monsters. And then for the last boss monster, I'm just playing 2 copies of Atondal. Atondal is, I like this guy better than the level 7 guy, mostly because this one is he destroys a monster, he can battle again. So in this version, you kind of want to drop the Kaijus, because I'm playing the Kaiju. You kind of want to drop him to your opponent's field, attack, deal some damage, and then this guy attacks again, which is pretty nice. So it always makes it so this guy can always beat twice. And he's banished 2 from your graveyard, or to special summon from your hand or graveyard. The rest of the guys I'm going to show can only be special summoned from hand, but most of them are just here for names. Starting off, I'm playing just 2 copies of Antra. Antra is just in here to be target 1 face-up card on the field and return it to the hand. Other than that, this card's really just a name and an extra Infernoid name in the deck. But I do like the bounce effect as well, so it's not too bad. And he's a level 2, so you can dump stuff to combo with his level. Next up, 3 copies of Petrula. Petrula is banish 1 special Infernoid from your hand or field, special summon it. And then this card is once per turn you can pop a back row. Or you can you contribute these guys the same with Antra. You contribute them from the grave, or tribute them, and you can banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard. And this is a quick effect, so you can play it when they target something. So basically, Petrula is back row removal. Harmatic is basically he's same thing, special summon from the hand, but he's monster effects, or he's monster effects. He pops a monster once per turn, and then they can't attack. But that's not a big thing because you're pretty well going to use them for tributes or exceed summons anyway. And then Decatron. Decatron's the only one that can be normal summoned or special summoned, or well, normal summoned anyway. The other ones can be special summoned. Basically, he's a tuner, which makes him really cool. And his effect is when he's normal special summoned, you can send a monster, an Infernoid monster from your deck to the grave. He copies that monster's level, or he gains that monster's level plus his own 1, and he gains that monster's effect. So basically, if you send one, he gains that effect. So if you send Harmatic, he's a level 4, and he can pop a monster. If you send Petrula, he's a level 5 that can pop back row. And if you special summon them, you can send the bigger monsters to destroy, to get their heavy storm / dark hole effects. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Raiden. I think 3 copies of Raiden is really good, because if you don't have your combos, or you don't have a play that can go first turn, the ability to summon this card and send 4 with this card, or search this card and send in 4 and send multiple copies to do that from your deck, can really strengthen this deck and really start this deck rolling for effects. Next up, I'm playing 1 Lila. I like Lila as just a summon, because most of this you're not going to really worry about your normal summons, excluding the Raiden and the Decatron. But basically this card is summon it, and it forces the response of back row, or they're going to lose it by changing its battle position. So Lila is definitely a card you want to play in the deck, just so you can bait out those back rows. And just for the last 3 monsters, I'm playing the Kaijus of uh, Gamma Seal. Basically, Gamma Seals here is just to be a 22 body that you contribute problematic monsters that this deck can't generally handle, but also it's just so you contribute so you can go a Tondel beat over this and Tondel can attack again and then you make plays from there. So Gamma Seal, obviously just the 3 copies of Gamma Seal. So the deck should be in. I I think it's I'm not sure. It's 24 to 25 monsters. Moving to spells, we're playing 3 copies of Left Arm Offering. This card is so good. The fact that the Banish Hand is not a big deal unless you open too many copies of Infernoid monsters. Then yeah, you kind of go minus because you banish them. But the main point is, you want to play the Left Arm Offering because you want to find this card right here, Void Imagination. Essentially, you're playing 6 copies of this card. But this card can grab you other good spells, which we'll go over in a minute. But basically, Void Imagination is basically when you have your opponent has an extra deck monster, you activate this card, send it to the graveyard, send 6 from your deck, Infernoids, and then you get to summon Terra from your extra deck, which Terra is so good. And the fact that this card is just send 6, and then you get the Terra's effects, and it's like activate this card. Even if you use this card, it doesn't matter because this card's gonna give you a card that's gonna get all your Infernoids into grave. So you're gonna have a hand. Essentially, you're gonna have resources in your graveyard. So essentially, you're still playing with cards. So you're not at all without cards. So you always have ways. Basically, your graveyard's your second hand. So losing your hand isn't a big deal, but you can play this card as the 3rd card, so you still only lose 2 if that's what you want. And Void Imagination, you have to use it. This is what I feel. These 6 cards are what still makes the deck good up until this point. Next up, I'm playing 2 Charge of Light Brigade. You have to. I've got 4 targets for this card, so it's super good. And the mill 3, add 1, and then if it's Raiden, you can mill more. It's just really good because it can get you into some really, really good cards really early on. 2 Twin Twister. I like Twin Twister over Galaxy Soldier, over Galaxy Cyclone, mostly because yes, if you mill this card, it's a flaw. But if you open this card, it's just a bonus 2 cards out of hand that can be face up. So I feel like if you're playing 2 copies of this card over the Galaxy Cyclones, it's not really a big loss. And then for 1-ups, I'm playing the Reasoning and the Monster Gate. Obviously, these cards are very standard. Left Arm Offering can search these cards, but I don't really play to this card. I don't really use these cards as the main win conditions of the deck. I find them more as things like Activate Reasoning. You mill a bunch of cards. If you get it or not, you get it. Monster Gate. You mill a bunch of cards. You get it. You get it. You're not. Most of this deck is going to be focused on that Void Imagination to get those 6 pluses to the grave, to get the Terror, to get all those effects, and then you can just go off real hard. So that's it for those 2. 1 for 1. I like 1 for 1 in this deck, obviously, because you have to. You've played so many monsters. Decatron, it's really good. I'm playing the Foolish Burial. Essentially, this card is essentially the upstart Goblin of this deck because it send that Infernoid you want to the graveyard. It keeps the deck a 39 card deck, so I feel like you have to play it. The one Raigeki, because Raigeki, it's super good. I do understand you have the Dark Hole in the deck built in. But I figure why not. And 1 Burial from the Different Dimension. I like this card just to be able to put banished stuff back into the deck. Or back into the grave. So I think that's really good. So it's either 14 or 15 spell cards. I'm not wasting time here, so going right into the extra deck. I'm playing 3 copies of Infernoid Terra. Now, I play 3 copies of this card, mostly because you're going to fusion it with 1, and then you're going to send because of the effect. You're going to get both of these effects off. So the first effect you're going to get off is each player sends 3 cards from the extra deck to the grave. So mostly what I do is I'll send Infernoid Terras, 2 of them. This one's on the field, and I'll send the Omega to the grave as well, so the Omega can use his effect to put himself back into the grave. We'll get to that in a bit. But basically, the Terras are in here. If you open with 2 Void Imaginations, you can play both of them to really get a plus, so you can get 2 big beaters on the board at once. So you can do that if you have those, but usually what I do is I'll send the Infernoid Terras to the graveyard so that I can these will be fodder for my Infernoid monsters, so I can banish them, so I can play my Infernoids. I don't have to worry about running out of Infernoid names because I play the extra in the extra deck. So plus this card is really good because it's send 3 from the extra deck to the grave, and then you get to send the top 3 cards of each player's deck to the graveyard, and each player does this. So if you're playing against like a synchro based deck, or I don't know, ABCs, or any meta deck, or any deck that's really reliant on extra deck, them losing 3 cards can be really hurtful sometimes. So you have to play, like, you don't have to play, some people just play it at 1, but I think it's really good at 3. For synchros, I'm playing 1 Black Rose, 1 Crystal Wing, 1 Clear Wing, and 1 Black Rose Moonlight. I think these 3 are good enough. Black Rose, obviously Dark Hole. Clear Wing, obviously the standard monster effect and the attack gain. Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, basically because it's special summoned, and then anytime a monster is special summoned, you get to keep bouncing. So obviously these cards are very easy, and they're quite easy to pull off. So I'm playing them. For 8s, I'm playing the Omega. Obviously the Omega, because you send it, you can put it back in the deck, summon this card, it's take a card out of your opponent's hand, and it's return a banish from your banish zone to your grave. Very versatile, this card. It's the reason why this card's super expensive, because there is no downsides. If I had a second copy of this card, honestly, I'd be playing a second copy, but like, you can, just 1 is enough because you can just keep recycling it, but 2 to drop on the field together is amazing. I'm playing 1 copy of Scrap Dragon, just so you can go Scrap Dragon, and pop a back row or pop a monster, and then you can keep going with the Infernoids. 1 Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend. This card's actually really good in the deck, surprisingly, because you can bring up a big board, drop this card, and then pop the big board, and you get to burn your opponent for game, because his effect is basically, you can once per turn destroy as many special summon effect monsters on the field as possible, and then with attack less than or equal to this card, other than this card, of course, and then you get to inflict 500 points of damage for each card. So this card can essentially be really big damage if you load up your board with monsters, special summon monsters you can keep burning out. Then I'm playing rank 3s. I'm playing 1 Breaksword. Breaksword is the same essentially as the Scrap Dragon, but just to pop himself, pop a back row, and then you can keep going off with your monsters. 1 Dante. If you're slow rolling it and you need mills, Dante's here, but I hardly ever go into him because the deck's usually good. Nightmare Shark. Nightmare Shark just for game is really, really useful, just because you can punch over, and with a Tundle being able to beat for heavy damage, it's very easy, especially in the game where they're paying a lot of life points. If you can drop this card, it's just a game winning. So that's it for 3s. For 4s, I'm just playing the standard 101 Castell and the Gaga Cowboy. If Exciton Knight was off the ban list, I'd be playing that instead of Cowboy. But other than that, these are the 3 I think are the best to play right now. So that's it for this deck profile. I want to hear in the comment section below what's your thoughts on this deck, maybe something to improve it. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.